Have you ever dreamed of living at the beach? I did, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you my story of how I manifested my dream life and location at the beach. I'm Jackie Almer. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any fun beachy content or any of the rest of what we study and learn and grow together with here on the channel. And grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com. So let me ask you, what do you dream of doing? What do you dream of being and having in your life? And have you ever truly focused on manifesting it? Now, manifesting is a word that's bantered around quite a bit. And I will tell you, I'm a huge believer in it because I've manifested a number of things in my life. And the way that I like to look at that is just drawing those things in that we truly want, making some decisions, focusing on them, visualizing them, and then taking the steps daily as much as possible toward making those dreams a reality. Now, I grew up in southern Colorado, and I can remember way back as a child in the snowy January months, for sure, feeling like, it seems so cold and white and frozen and desolate. And all I could think about was, when I grow up, I'm moving to California, I'm getting to the beach. And that was a goal and a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. Now, the reality of it is, through the airline industry in my life, took me all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, before I ultimately moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and then on to California, eventually living 3 blocks off of the beach, and now back to Scottsdale, Arizona. So it really is kind of a full circle type story. So I really began dialing in on this probably in probably the mid 90s. About the mid 90s is when I really started learning more about self-growth and visualization and how to manifest. And so I started really thinking, writing out those goals, right? Write those 10 things, bucket list items that you want to do, and not just trips and that type of thing. And one of my biggest ones was to ultimately live at the beach. And so one of the very first things that I did in the process is I subscribed to Coastal Living magazine. It was kind of one of those things. I must have been on the internet, although I got online fairly early, but I took a business online in 1999, and maybe that's about the time that I subscribed to Coastal Living. Now, it's funny, I look at this one. This is a June 2006 issue. I saved some of the key ones that have a lot of decor and different things in them that I love, but I subscribed to this magazine, and what I would do is every single month when it would come in, I would look through it, I would look through the pictures, and I would literally, I'm trying to find one good here. I would just try to dream in my mind what it would be like. I would put myself there. I would walk into the bedroom. I would unpack my suitcase. I would dress in something white and flowy that was very beach-like. And so that's one of the things that I did to begin drawing in the process. Through that, my husband and I, of course, living in hot, sunny Arizona, decided to get away for a couple of weeks in the summer, and we arbitrarily rented a place near Ventura, California for 2 weeks one summer. Our kids were small, and it was a referral from another pilot who said, "Hey, go look up in this area. It's off the beaten path of the main Southern California beaches, Disneyland, all of that." We wanted to go do that for a day, but we didn't want to be right down there. And so we did. We rented a beach place for 2 weeks. And I remember just absolutely falling in love with Ventura downtown. It was all being renovated and just re-energized. And I fell in love with Ventura. And then interestingly, right about that time, I met a woman at a networking event who was in town from Ventura. And it was kind of like, I felt like the universe was calling me. Everywhere that I would look or turn, there was something about Ventura that landed on my radar. Now, after 9/11, we ended up moving out to California. It was kind of in our plan. We'd been going back and forth for a couple of years trying to decide, but we had actually made a decision to stay in Phoenix. Our kids went to a fabulous Montessori school that we loved, and we had decided to go ahead and plant our roots in Phoenix and skip California. Along came 9/11. I won't get into that whole story, but that prompted us in 2002 to move out to Lake Arrowhead, California. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Although it was kind of funny, as much as I had spent my whole life wanting to be in California, I was really entrenched in my local area, my community, my friends, my children's school, and all of that. So it was funny how that dream, once it started coming true to get to California at least, I was kind of like wistful. I wanted to do it, but part of me was like, oh, what am I giving up in order to do this? Well, it was interesting. Through that time in California, again, as coincidences would happen, drop-ins from the universe, as I call them, I was invited within a couple of months of moving out there with a few girlfriends to go out to a weekend women's retreat that, guess what, was right near Ventura. We actually went down into the town of Ventura and had lunch and shopped one afternoon of that weekend. And I just really fell in love with the charm of Ventura yet again. Now, that prompted me to buy this plaque that I still have today, Mayberry by the Sea, and it says Ventura. So I bought this plaque and I took it home and I sat it. I'm in California at this point, but it literally sat on a credenza in my office to where I looked at it every single day and multiple times a day. Then I was out there at a bridal shower for a girlfriend for a couple of nights, and then my husband joined me out there for a couple of nights. So I came out with a group of girlfriends. We had a great time in Ventura. They went back to Lake Arrowhead. My husband came out there, and then we stayed for a couple of nights, and then he drove me back up to Lake Arrowhead when it was over. But it was interesting because at that time we toured the Mayfair Lofts, and I grabbed this little model plan of the Mayfair Lofts in Ventura, right off of Santa Clara Street. And it's kind of funny because my exact unit that I bought was the model home at the time, and it's the one that's listed here on this sheet. So I kept this. It's Keller Williams agent. It's kind of funny. I haven't really looked at this in a long time, but it's in my personal file that I keep that has all of my really special stuff in it. So making this video today, I went right to that and I found it. And it was kind of funny because the model home that was on tour at the time was perfect. It was a corner unit. It looked at the third story, looked out over the ocean. You could see the Channel Islands from there. It was absolutely idyllic, and I wanted that model home. And so I brought this home with that address there, and I started visualizing, and I set it right there on my credenza with my Mayberry by the Sea Ventura sign, and that really began to percolate in my psyche. Less than a year later, maybe a year later, we're back out there again for the weekend. There is a open house. We go back through it. Now the model home has changed, but we're in there and super excited. And just as fate would have it, 793 East Santa Clara showed up on the market right about that time in a short sale situation. We were the last ones to put a bid in, and we actually ended up getting that spot. So that's the power of putting a dream to work for you. I went from living in Phoenix, actually I went from living in Colorado, dreaming about the beach, going all the way to Nashville, but still loving to go visit California and spend my time there, to moving to Arizona, subscribing to Coastal Living, putting my dreams down in writing, moving to California, putting all these things into play. Now, we owned that place for about 10 years out in Ventura, along with our Lake Arrowhead place. And then ultimately, for a number of reasons, we made the decision to move back to Arizona, to move to Scottsdale this time. And I remember shopping in my favorite little store, which was Beyond Maine, a little beach store, and I found this book called How to Live at the Beach. Because again, I was very bittersweet. I had finally made it to my destination. I had finally manifested what I want and made it to the beach. And I loved it. But it was interesting because living where we did, right downtown, right off the beach, all the things that appealed to me about it ultimately kind of also began to repel me about it. It was noisy, it was dirty. it wasn't quite the idyllic setting that you might see in the movies and think that it was. Now, again, I definitely appreciated it. I got up almost every single day and walked the Strand. I would walk around on the, along the ocean, and then a back trail. I would sit out on the park benches right there on the Strand, and I would meditate and look out at the fantastic Channel Islands and the ocean in the afternoons. I loved doing that, listening to Hay House radio, and it was just really perfect. So I will say that my time out there, I never took any of it for granted. I truly lived at the beach and loved all of it. But as we prepared to move back, I got this book. And what I realized more than anything is that where we live and what we do and how we are is truly a mindset. And what I realized is that just like I visualized it before I actually was there, and then I brought it into my life and lived it while I was there, once I moved back to Arizona, I realized I was capable of being at the beach any time I desired. I could simply close my eyes, and in closing my eyes, I could hear the sound of the seagulls. In fact, if you close your eyes right now and listen to my words, you're going to get this too. I could close my eyes and I could hear the seagulls just kind of, you know how they float like right over you, waiting for you to drop a French fry? I could hear the surf hitting the sand and the waves gently and sometimes forcefully coming in and out. I could hear the crowds of people as I walked the Strand. I could close my eyes and visualize the Channel Islands all out there just like they are. I could see the sunset over the ocean. So it is amazing what we can do in the mind. Everything starts first in the mind, and then our goal is to attract it in. But then even when we must or choose to leave behind certain things, we can always bring it back by simply closing our eyes, calming our soul, if you will, and bringing ourselves into that space. Close the eyes, hear the seagulls, hear the surf, feel the sun, feel the sand, feel the warm breeze, right? All of that. Smell the French fries, smell the surf, that salty, sandy, beachy feel. We can do that anytime we want. So my goal for you is to decide what it is you really want. What is something you really, really want? And then surround yourself with those props that support getting there, whatever those might be. If it's a home, do like I did, go tour it, get the paperwork, bring it home with you, flip through it every morning with your coffee as you're sitting out, getting your circadian reset with the morning routine or whatever it is. But truly live there in your mind every day. I'm Jackie Elmer. Make sure you're subscribed. Drop me a comment below and let me know if you love the beach or if you love the mountains more, what really appeals to you. What would you like to manifest in your life? What tips do you have for the rest of us? Grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com and make sure you check out my Curating an Amazing Life at 50 and Beyond playlist that's here on YouTube.